Okay, well, Charity, thank you so much for being here. You and I have never met. This is our first meeting. I don't even know how you found me, and I'd love for you to let us know here in a second, but I just appreciate you being here and wanting to be part of this campaign, if you will. I'm trying to increase awareness and decrease stigma around, ultra processed food addiction recovery treatment, any of those, kind of things that really apply to us who are trying to find our way. And so, if you would just introduce yourself to us and let us know what it was like before you got into recovery.
Sure. So I'm Charity Silva, and I found you, Molly, by listening to Siobhan Harris's podcast on Sweet and Sio. Really love that. And then from there, I think I signed up for the email newsletter, and that's how I found the Sugar X Global Thursday meeting. So anyway, it's wonderful that there's more resources and more talk going on, I think, on the internet than there used to be. So that's how I found you. And so, I am happily married, and my family, we live in Phoenix, Arizona area, and we have 4 daughters, and their ages teenager down to toddler. And so, we love them. I say I have 5 treasures, and I just love it. And so we're cherishing this time until the first one leaves, So anyway, and let's see. I'm also a very faithful participant in my Christian religion. And so that's a big piece of who I am and what I do. And so certainly shaped me, but it was also kind of a internal struggle between what I was taught and what I'm trying to live as well. And so, so as far as addiction, I certainly identify as an addict, sugar addict. I know that terminology is fairly new, but I'm okay to own that because that's certainly my story. And I know it's been since childhood. I remember being elementary school age and all my brothers did soccer, and I thought about maybe doing soccer just to get the treat at the end. Like, I didn't even want to do soccer at all, but the treat at the end was enough motivating factor for me. So I didn't end up doing soccer, but that was one of my red flags and clues, that might be something to look at. And so, my family's wonderful, and they did the best they could with the knowledge they had. And we had a lot of healthy foods. We also had a lot of flour and sugar and processed foods around, like many families. At the time, it's just kind of what was normal. And especially at social events, of course, family birthdays and church events, there's always refreshments. And so I'm kind of on this personal mission now. If I'm in charge of my church activity, I'm bringing healthy stuff. And my daughters roll their eyes and call me a health nut, but that's okay. I'm trying to break the cycle and try to make it a little more healthy and kind environment for those of us who struggle with sugar. So let's see. And then I came to find out it wasn't just the environment, but then my brain chemistry had a factor as well. And so I came to find that out later. Sorry, bumped to the computer. Let's see. I would buy a candy bar every day in high school from the softball coach. It was just part of my life. I didn't really think a lot of it. I mean, I knew it wasn't great, but I was just kind of this is great. It's delicious, so I'm going to eat it. I didn't really like healthy foods, so I was kind of picky eater. So again, maybe a red flag, but whatever, it's our journey. So so with my religious beliefs, we believe that our physical body is a house for our spirit or our soul, and so we want to care for that vessel so that we can be our best. And so we do have a health code in our church, and it asks us not to have alcohol and addictive drugs. And so they don't mention sugar, but they do say substances that are destructive, habit forming, or addictive should be avoided. So for me, that does include sugar and flour. I know it's not the case for everybody, but for me, there it is. So it's good to have the kind of full circle come back around with that. And so anyway, so that's just kind of been part of me and trying to take care of my body, but not really. I had been trying, but part of me had this addiction. And so it was kind of the 2 wolves inside me, that people talk about. So
what was your aha moment? How did you figure out that's what it was? Because most people don't just know that. they read something or they hear something or they give it up for some reason and they're like, oh, this is really hard. This must be an issue. Like what happened?
Yeah. So college was like, I can eat whatever I want. This is delicious. Who cares? And then it really started getting more heavy into the sugar when I was a young mother. And I had postpartum depression twice, after my second baby and after my third baby. And it was just a coping mechanism as well as a habit and addiction, but it was both. And so it was getting so bad. Let me pull up my other paper here. It was getting so bad that the addictive behaviors were starting. I was hiding stuff. I was driving to different gas stations. I was making brownies when really I needed to do other things with my day. But it was certainly addictive behavior. And so for a while, for years, I was like, I know this is a problem, but I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do. And I thought it was like a moral issue. Why can't I conquer this? Like I've done all these other good things and very, I think, accomplished things in my life, but I can't fix this on my own. And so the second time that I had postpartum depression, which first of all, I want to say I'm really grateful that I survived both of those seasons. That was like the hardest thing I've gone through. That was harder than what I'm currently doing. And so I have a lot of compassion for anybody with mental health issues. And so another pivotal moment that came to mind was the second time, I think it's the second time I had depression. I was standing in my kitchen, eating chocolate, probably something. And I remember like thinking, I could give this up, but I would be giving up like a big piece of my happiness. And I don't know why that is, but that's just how it felt at the time. I'm like, I'm just going to hang on to this because it's bringing me some like, not stability, but just coping mechanism. It's helping me get through. I was in survival mode and I knew it wasn't a good thing, but I just, with the mental health, I couldn't really work on my physical health at the time. I just was trying to survive each day. And so I just kind of had to put it on the back burner and seek help for my mental condition first. And then I was able to work on my physical health later. So for me, counseling and then medication helped me become more stable with my depression. And so then I was really excited to be able to work on my physical health. And my children were a little older too. So that opened up my time a little bit. And so that was kind of the shifting point for me.
Yeah. So, okay. So you get your mental health stabilized. I feel like our stories are a bit similar in that aspect.
Yeah.
I feel like mine was definitely mental health first. And then I was like, oh, there's this other piece. So you get it. And so then like, were you listening to Unsweetened Sayo or like, how did it click? And then you were like, okay, it's time to give this up.
Yeah. I remember the kitchen where we lived, like just wondering, finding answers. What do I do? So one time I Googled chocolate addiction and up came Kathleen DeMason's Potatoes Not Prozac book, which I have, and the Radiant Recovery Program. So I started looking into that. I got the book, started looking at it and reading it. I'm like, this really resonates with my story. This makes sense. Someone gets it. I'm not insane, And so, yeah, so I was able to start. I got the book and it was like a year and a half after I took an intro class and actually like committed to start that program. But it was really a relief actually to find that it wasn't that moral issue. It was like for me, it's a brain and body reaction basically. And she talks about there's 3 things in the body specifically that can make someone, she calls sugar sensitive. And so I was willing to give it a try because I was just tired of it, ruling my life and just being that internal struggle. So that's what I found first. So
that's amazing. I think you're the first person I've interviewed that found Kathleen first,
yeah.
And really sent them on their journey. Not that I believe there are thousands of people out there, I'm sure, who have found her in her book and her program, which is just amazing. I do enjoy her perspective on things for sure. So for you then, when you started read the book and taking the course, was it hard for you to give up those things at that point? Or was it easier because you had already stabilized your mental health in other ways? Like, can you talk a bit about what those early days were like? Did you go through withdrawal? Like, how did you do that?
Well, her program is actually very gradual. She doesn't personally recommend cold turkey. And so her program starts with just having a stable breakfast. And there's 4 pieces to it, and you add those in one at a time. It's super slow, as slow as you want it to be anyway. And so It's eating enough protein for your body weight at breakfast, and then complex carb, or any carb, I guess, at the beginning, and then having it on time within an hour of waking up for blood sugar stabilization, excuse me. And then what was the fourth piece? Protein on time, carb. There's another one. And maybe every day, something like that. And so the first step is actually just breakfast, and you don't worry about the sugar. You don't worry about anything else. So it's super gradual. And so it's a 7-step program, and you actually don't give up sugar entirely until step 6. And I am on step 3, but I've kind of already done 5 already. So I have those if you're curious, but yeah, I didn't go through much withdrawal because it was super gradual. And so I started in November. It'll be 5 years since I started. And so I've been at this. Yeah, thank you. I've been at this a while, but I think that's the right fit for my body and my personality, to go slow and gradual, because that helps me stay consistent and be able to maintain instead of just cold turkey. So I know both approaches can work, and that's fine, but this has been working for me. And so I do eat very differently now than I did in those early days. Like, for example, step 5 is to go from white carbs to brown carbs. So instead of white bread, you'd have whole grain bread, or white rice, you'd have brown rice. And so I currently eat only brown carbs, and I chose as well on my own to go flour free as of January of this year, inspired by Siobhan Harris again. And I struggle with that a little bit because flour is not part of Kathleen's program. And if she were to talk with me, she would say, just do this, and then you could tweak later if you want. She's kind of particular about follow these steps this way. And that's not a all negative thing, but I was just ready to do something in addition to what I was doing. So anyway, so I eat very differently. So
yeah. So I mean, doing
I don't
this
think
over
I
the
answered the
past,
question perfectly. Sorry.
no, not at all. There is no right or wrong answer here. There's no perfection at all. So thinking about, okay, this has been a gradual change for you over 5 years, which has probably, like you said, kind of helped with like very little withdrawal, if at all, right? Probably didn't notice much, or maybe it was like a headache here or a little bit of something there. So a couple things. Has your family gotten on board? Do they support you in this? Like, do they help make meals or encourage you to keep doing what you're doing? That's my first question, I guess, that I'm really curious about.
I can speak to the withdrawal piece real quick as well. Excuse me. With the giving up flour, I did have more of a significant withdrawal that I didn't figure out for a few months. So I was having this stomach pain ongoing, and my husband helped me figure it out that probably it was a combination of going from flour to no flour. And then still having carbs, but just rice and steel cut oats and things like that. And then my antidepressant medication might have a side effect of, what's the opposite of hydration? Dehydration. There we go. Yeah. And so his theory, which I think is what happened, is the combination of giving up flour pretty much cold turkey, and then my antidepressant medication. My body was like, what's happening? Because carbohydrates hold on to water, the hydrate. And so gratefully that passed, but it was a rough couple of weeks and months. That was not fun. So that was the worst of the withdrawals so far. And then my family, they are semi-supportive, let me say. So they don't eat the way I do, but they don't try to tempt me. They don't ask me to eat something that I won't. They understand what I'm trying to do, and that I'll do me, they'll do them. And so, yes, I of course, I wish they would have more interest in my foods, because it's a struggle sometimes. I'll eat my food, or I'll cook my food, and we still have to do a family dinner that maybe looks something different. So that's a little bit of a challenge, but they are great. And yes, for the most part, they're supportive. So
that's always helpful. I mean, even if they're not willing to do, your program, but that they're not like trying to like tempt you with things that you've decided are not for you. My second part of that is, okay, so understandably, like you said, the withdrawal, so like experiencing more physical withdrawal with the flour, and that makes sense based on what you said. So like to have this like dehydration thing and the combination of removing the flour, which would have been holding on to more water, makes sense. That would be miserable, especially if you didn't know. So then you're not like using electrolytes or like figuring out, maybe whatever needs to happen there. But I'm curious to know, in this, kind of like gradual process that this journey you've been on, have you had any like psychological cravings where, it's not necessarily being triggered by anything you're physically eating, but that maybe you're experiencing some sort of activating event, or like there's some sort of emotion or situation or something where before maybe you would have, like you said, like gone for the brownies or whatever other thing it would have been. Do you have those challenges, or has that really been quieted with this plan?
It's getting better. I certainly fall into that category as well of emotional eating, or just coping with certain foods, or the sugar or the drug foods. And so I haven't been off flour very long, and I haven't been off chocolate very long. It's only been a couple of months. And I call it straight chocolate. Like the only thing I still have is some protein bars. And so I'm certainly still mid-journey, but it's like count on one hand type of stuff instead of all the things. And so, I'm learning better coping mechanisms. I'll go look at a clean meme, or I'll go on a walk or something like that, or have a drink of water instead of turn right to the food that I used to go to. And so, it's getting better. I'm still learning those skills, and I've heard that you kind of need to be abstinent first before you really get a handle on those, but it's coming, it's getting better. So that's encouraging. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody's journey is individual. So there probably are people who need to have complete abstinence before they get a handle on those skills. But I also think that we can be in recovery without being 100% abstinent either. And I think like those skills that you're talking about are definitely recovery skills that you're learning as you go. And maybe you had them before too. You're just applying them now to these situations, which I think that's what I'm looking for when I'm working with clients, is like, you already have tools and skills, like you internally already have a lot of these answers. But I think we've decided, they go in this box, but they don't necessarily fit in this box. And I'm like, but what if they did? Like, what would happen if we applied it over here? So I really like that you're figuring that out. So I'm wondering, like, you've mentioned a couple times, now what you eat today is so different than what you ate 5 years ago. And beyond the food, what is life like for you now versus what it was before you started this journey? I mean, do your children, your husband, family members, friends, has anybody commented or said like, you're so different, or something's changed? And if so, what are those things?
Nothing giant, but some people have said, oh, you look really good, you're losing weight. I also had a baby 2 years ago, so that's part of it. But anyway, I don't know. I don't remember any specific comments, but I also might have been pretty good at hiding what was going on as well. I have a friend that where we used to live, when she learned that I had struggled with depression, she said, I had no idea, so I guess I just put on a brave face when I see people or go to church. And so anyway, I'm trying to be more, down to earth and authentic now. And I'll tell anybody that wants to listen my struggle, and that I understand, or that I've been through hard things. I don't know. It's kind of like almost on my own. Like I'm right in the middle of a mix with a couple friends and an online support group, and then still the program I'm in with an email group. I'm not sure. I feel a difference in myself. So in the program that I'm doing, we learn about blood sugar, and people that are sugar sensitive, according to Kathleen DeMaisons, have a more volatile blood sugar. So if I eat something sugary or something with white flour, my blood sugar will just spike fast, really high, and then drop really fast. Maybe not too low, but just like this super high and low spike, instead of the gradual, like normal people, just kind of a wave. And that matches energy and mood as well. And so when I don't have that going on anymore, I feel the difference, and I'm excited because I feel like stable, and I feel I still am benefiting from my antidepressant medication, and I don't want to try going without it yet. But the other parts of my life, it's just so nice. Like food has become like food is delicious, but it's almost more functional now. Like there's less drama is the best way. It's like I have my food and then I go on with my day. It's not like, oh, what am I going to eat? And you know how Dave Wolf talks about the romance of it and it's just like delicious and it's hard. I mean, food is good and those addicting foods are hard, but it's nice to have that stability coming and like, this is better. I like this better and it's worth it. So
yeah, I always think back to, because I started my journey 5 years ago in November as well.
oh,
So that's really
wow.
fun. I think back to like, I was like a rager and not even like I always, whatever, I could keep it together, right? We're mature adults. You can keep it together. It wasn't out in public, but it would be like, I didn't even realize it, but I would be screaming at the kids or I would be like upset about something. And I look back and it's like, wow, that was so unnecessary. But I felt like I had zero ability to control it when it was happening. Right.
Yeah.
And now and I am with you. It's that roller coaster, right? Of these spikes and crashes, and you're up, you're down, your anxiety's up, you're depressed, you're all over the place. And so just to have that, that stabilization, yeah, it's like night and day. I can look back on situations that happened today that happened 5 years ago, and I'm such a different person. I'm just like, wow, look at that. So yeah, it's really fun to be able to look back. Yeah, it's fun to look back, right? And just go like, okay, I feel different. I feel like a whole different person. So what kinds of things do you do and even if it's not daily, but like weekly or in your life that you would attribute to like, I do this for recovery. Like these are the things I need to do to stay on track.
Yeah. The first that comes to mind is just in my personal life. I certainly involve God in my decisions in my life. I try to have a daily morning prayer and a night prayer and scripture study during the day when I can. And I just pray for help to continue to make better choices and to do better and forgiveness for mistakes, And so I feel like that does come and that helps me make those better decisions. And then remembering like my whys is what I'm calling it, the WHYS, like what's the reason why I am choosing this path? That really helps me. And I have those written down if you wanted those, but remembering what I'm doing this for really helps. I also now have been planning my meals. And so not perfect, but this last week or so, I've just experimented by giving up dairy just to see, because I have like congestion and nasal issues. And so because I can't just turn to my normal dairy foods for the protein, it's like this easy, this will give me this much, this will give me that much. I know exactly how much protein I'm getting in each meal. I can't turn to that. So I really have to plan like, okay, I've eaten more beans this week than any other week in my life. Beans and meat, just trying something different, but I've done it. And so in my early days, I never would have been able to do that. I didn't have the skills yet. Like it came over time. And so that really helps, like thinking ahead, helping me have the food I need. And again, it's not perfect every day. Sometimes I just plan one meal the day before or two, or sometimes it's all three, or I'll make sure I have things on hand in the fridge or the freezer or whatever. So that helps. And then I have a friend who's also on a health journey, and sometimes I'll text her just for support or say, look what I did. Have someone else besides the wonderful online community, which is another piece. I love that. And that really helps, especially the SugarX Global Thursday meetings. I love those. But having someone that I know like in person down the street helps as well. Like there's somebody in my corner that kind of gets it, or at least is super encouraging instead of, why are you doing that? That's so weird, a kind of attitude. So that helps. Let's see what else I wrote down here. Oh, and then the other two things I wrote down were I like to keep reminding myself of like the benefits by listening to the Unsweetened Style podcast or the Quit Sugar Summit. I have one of those packages, so I'll listen to those or your podcast too. And then just reminding myself like, oh yes, this is why I'm doing it. this is better. Just the reminders, inspiration. And the last one I wrote down was just allowing it to take the time it needs. Like in the program that I'm in, some people say, some people can do this one step like each month. And I quickly learned that was going to be too quick for me, too fast of a pace. And so like, that's okay. It can take as much time as it needs, and hopefully not, 20 years, but it's fine. Like to just allow it to take time. So yeah. And then I'm now that I'm not like in the middle of my addiction, I can work on lifestyle things as well, like trying to get more sleep, which is a challenge for me. And then exercise, like just this week, I took my daughter's bike, and that was amazing. I haven't been on a bike in so many years, and it felt amazing. And just trying to work in these like lifestyle things that we're all taught, but just anyway, trying to work those in to help not just my recovery, but like my fatigue. I have a family member with narcolepsy, just recently diagnosed. And so I'm not sure if that's what I have going on, but I've wondered for years, is it the sugar, or is it this food, or is it this condition, or is it just not going to bed on time? And so it's a journey trying to figure out what my body needs. And anyway, so those are some of the things I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like, I'm of the opinion time is going to pass anyway. Right. And so
Yeah.
to be on this journey and being willing to say, I don't have to have it all figured out within 30 days or 2 days or 24 hours, whatever it might be. And instead it's like this willingness to stay curious and just test it out. And you're like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get stable. And then when I feel ready, I'll take the next step, and then I'm going to do it and I'm going to get stable, and checking those different things out. I mean, to have a 2-year-old. Yeah. I mean, sleep. My kids are 9 and 6 and I'm still not sleeping through the night. Thank you very much. Right. Like, no, don't be sorry. We signed up for this in some ways,
True.
right? I mean,
So hard.
it is still hard. Absolutely. But it won't be forever. That's just, it is like, it won't be forever. And in the meantime, what kinds of things can we do to work on our sleep?
Yeah.
And then we'll do those things. And is it going to be perfect every night? No, because if it's not my kids, then it's my dogs, or my husband's snore, whatever it might be. Right. But we do it and we carry on and we say like, okay, well, I'll try again tomorrow night, or I'll whatever, and these different things that you're doing. And I just love what you have to say so much, because it's so relatable, because not everybody is the cold turkey person. Not everybody is the figure it out in the first, 30 days, 45 days, whatever. And I think the other thing I really love about what I'm hearing you in your experience is that there's no room for relapse, because relapse isn't even an option, because it's not even set up for that. Like the journey that you're on is not even set up for pass fail. It's just set up for learn, use it, keep moving forward, gradually stack on when you feel ready and stable. And I don't know, I mean, is that an accurate understanding, or have you? Okay. Yeah.
That's how I feel. I'm certainly, I'm doing better when I just abstain from whatever it is. Like I can't have just a little bit, like I've learned lately from Judy Wolf, like I have one bite and I cannot, can't control the rest. So I just won't have that first bite. But I couldn't do that in those early days. Like it was certainly a gradual thing. I had to kind of warm up to the idea of, I might be giving this up, and I have to eat these other foods. Like it took time, but I'm now in a better place, like physically and mentally, like, okay, I can do this. I feel better this way. And I haven't been perfect, of course. I've had, sort of setbacks. So just not been perfect or consistent, or I missed a meal there, or I journaled for a while and then I didn't. And then I did for a while and then I didn't. But it's all part of the process. Like I don't really try to beat myself up too much, but excuse me, because I am 5 years in, and because I have made more drastic changes like this year, it's feeling easier to stick to it. It's feeling easier to just like Siobhan Harris says, like, nope, I just don't do that anymore. It's not for me, because I know myself, because I know that it might lead down this path again. I've already gone through all this work. I don't want to have to climb out again. So
but I think that's what I'm hearing you say, though, is that this is a journey in this, I'm going to say specific direction, but really we don't know what that direction is.
Yeah.
It's just kind of
Better.
out there and you're kind of seeking and learning and you're on it, you know, you're on this path versus where, you know, I think sometimes when we're on this journey, it's very easy to get wrapped up in diet culture. I think diet culture still
Yeah.
shows up in these recovery rooms sometimes, or these
Yeah.
programs that we're in. And that isn't what I'm hearing you go through. And I just love that so much. And I appreciate that, you know, you're able to just have your own voice and really like have boundaries around it and like, okay, when I'm ready and I'll take the next step. And you're doing it on your own terms at your own pace. And that's called self-determination. And I'm a big believer in self-determination. I think that is the way that people stick to it, right? Because then it is, that's just somebody I used to be, or that's just something that I used to do, because these changes are internal and external. It's not just quick, I'm doing this external thing of, you know, drastically reducing my calorie intake and giving up sugar for 30 days for a detox. And then we're right back to it day 31. That's not at all what this is. And I'm just so happy and excited for you. I know it's not my place to be happy and excited for anybody, let alone you, a perfect stranger, but I certainly am for you. It's so fun to hear and inspiring, you know? So thinking about that and this journey and where you're at and where you want to be someday, or this, you know, whatever direction you see yourself going, what is something maybe you needed to hear when you were first starting? So if we're thinking about somebody who's in a position that you were in, like, oh, do I want to give this up? Do I not want to give this up? You know, or maybe they're on a gradual path like you are. What is something maybe you would have needed to hear or would have liked to have heard early days?
Yeah. The first thing that was such a relief, like I said, is just learning that it wasn't a moral weakness or a character flaw to have this like addiction, sugar addiction. And I am so thankful that my church and religion standards asked me not to ever try alcohol or smoking or drugs. I could have, but I really didn't have much opportunity or desire. It was just like, I'm not going to live this way because I'm asked to, and that's fine. So I'm grateful that I, you know, heeded that and didn't try those things, because I am pretty sure that I would be an addict of those things as well. And that would have been an even deeper, rougher road. And so just thankful to know that it's not just a character flaw. Like it's just my brain. I have a relative that says, if you have a heart condition, you take heart medication. If you have a brain condition like depression, you take brain medication. Or that's one approach, you know, and it kind of removes you from feeling as guilty. And so that was huge for me to say, oh, this is what my brain and my body are doing. And so it's not awful for turning to this. It's just, and it's also kind of what we grew up doing, what we're not trained, but it's just the environment and the culture, some of it. And then just knowing that change is possible. Like, you know, at that hard spot, it's like, I don't want to give this up. Like this is like comfort. It's comforting. I don't want to like, you know, give this up yet. Like, I knew it would take work. And when you're in the middle of addiction, especially in the beginning, it's like, you can't even imagine a world without it. You can't even comprehend what it would be like. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, this is comfortable. This is my fix when something's stressful. This works, you know? So learning, and then along with that, learning that other people have overcome their addictions, and including sugar addiction. So that was nice to just learn, oh, there's other people, there's a way, there's a path. And if I try to follow that same path, I will likely get the same results. And so that was really, really reassuring. And then the last thing that I thought of was that I want people to know they can customize their food plan for their body. That's like huge, because I love listening to a lot of resources, Quit Sugar Summits and the other things I mentioned. I like listening to those, but sometimes it's hard to know what to do with all that like overload of information. Like, well, they're saying I shouldn't eat dairy, and they're saying it's fine, and there's, you know, and so you know, with the exception of the foods that are most triggering for if you're an addict, anyway, that too, some people are addicts, some aren't. That was nice to learn as well. And so being compassionate for other people, like, whatever their journey is, that's fine, but this is me. And so yeah, that's really helpful to sift through all the different things that are coming, because you watch a documentary and it's always one-sided. And then you watch the other one and they're like battling. It's like, why do we have to be battles? Like, can I just be like the peacemaker here, the like middle ground? Like, it's fine. You do what you feels right for you. as long as it's not hurting anybody else, it's fine. And so that's been helpful. And I'm grateful to be doing that with myself. Like, I've made a lot of progress this year, not only with just flour, but I've stopped eating a lot of the processed foods. And after going to the Crush Your Cravings challenge, I stopped having canola oil. And I'm just like, that's not too hard. I can do that. I can do that. You know, I can make another change. And it's just exciting. So, yeah.
It is exciting. And again, I just appreciate it's like your attitude maybe about this is so right, like you're so flexible in your thinking and how you're approaching this. Again, it's that curiosity piece. And you know, the clients that I've had that I have seen do, you know, very well have that, right? They have that flexibility in their thinking. They stay curious. They're willing to consider like, okay, like maybe this could be something. But instead of listening to, like you were saying, excuse me, we're saying like the noise, but just like checking it out for yourself. So like canola oil was not something that it sounds like was on your radar. You heard something about it. You've given it up and you're checking, you're like, oh yeah, that's not hard. You're checking it out. And like, has it made a difference? Maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. But either way, you're willing to check that out and not just take somebody's word for it, right? Like if it didn't make a difference and it was easier to keep it in your life, like that might be something you consider doing. Not that necessarily you would, but like in that kind of thinking pattern, when we can be flexible with it, that would be something we might do. And I just so appreciate those words that you have for somebody starting out. And yeah, is there anything I didn't ask that maybe I should have asked, or that you would want somebody to know or hear today?
Just that anyone that might be struggling with this, that like you're not alone, because this world is not set up to be friendly for food addicts or sugar addicts. I get pretty frustrated actually. Like, I know it's not a problem for everybody. I don't have the statistic, but Mike Collins talks about a third of people are addicted, probably a third of people are harmful users where they had too much, but they could give it up. It wouldn't be as hard and it's not a true addiction. And then a third are like normal, where they're like, eat half a cookie and not have another one for a month and not think anything of it. And so, so that's helpful to know, like, where do you fall in those categories? And if it matters to you to find out, and then you can approach your recovery that way. And just that you're not the only one out there who's struggling, who's doing something different. Like, maybe it helps that I don't mind doing things different. Like, I currently don't have a social media account at all. No Facebook. I watch YouTube, but I don't really have my own channel or just our family, like, home videos channel. I'm not on Instagram yet. And so and then in other areas of my life, I've chosen to be different. And maybe that helps. I think Mike Collins spoke to that, where it's like, I can do that, you know. I would almost rather be doing something different. I don't really like going with the crowd sometimes. So maybe that served me in my journey, but it's hard. Like, I've been avoiding like our big grocery store down the street, because there's processed food and sugar everywhere. And although I'm not as tempted right now, like, I'm not fully over it either. It wasn't that long ago I was eating those things. And so I'll do pickup, or I'll go to a different store, or just be quick, or, you know, I'm so thankful for the different communities, the different strategies, people supporting each other. It's hard. I hope that through things like this, we can get the word out that some people are trying to recover from these things, and someday maybe we can make our cultural events, church events, and even the grocery stores a little more friendly. I'm like, isn't there a store that exists that you could just buy like whole food? I'm like, oh wait, a farmer's market. Like, there is. Oh dear, you know, it's just shifted way too far to the other side, you know. And I love all the people that talk about it, Robert Lustig and or Lustig, I always say it wrong, and Vinton Johnson. There's so many resources and so many great people talking about it. And I had no idea it even existed until I found it myself, and I was an adult. And so it's coming. I like Mike Collins says, I've mentioned him so many times, but I've watched a lot of the Quick Sugar Summits, but he says, be on the right side of history. Like, I hope that this is shifting for more and more people. And if we have to be the trailblazers, we will. And so it's okay to be weird and different, and the only one at a social function who's like, oh, I'm bringing my own thing, or I'm not going to have it. Thanks anyway, you know? So Kathleen DeMaison says there's like 100 ways you can say no, like politely, and so there's ways, there's strategies, but yeah, let me see if there's anything else that, did you want to comment about that? Or
I mean, the thing that struck me, like you said, that there are so many people out there talking about it. I went to a training session yesterday, and the evidence out there is so interesting. There are something like, now this could be off because 2022 again, like everything's happening so quickly these days, but there's something like less than 400 research papers on eating disorders. So like research, right? And there's over 3,500 on food addiction.
Oh my goodness. I would have thought it's the opposite with
right. Yeah.
of eating disorders.
Yeah. Like it's no longer a question that this is real, right? So like we constantly get pushback in the professional, right? On that level, we constantly get pushback. And, the truth is like, there's no longer a question. This is real. There is a ton of research around it. And granted, is there research against it? Yes. But that's like you were saying earlier, it's like, are eggs good for you or they bad for you? Like whatever, you can find evidence for whatever side of the aisle you're on, whatever you want to say, but just to, like you said, we're not alone. There's a lot of people out there. There are a lot of resources. Even when we started out 5 years ago, right? I mean, I'm thinking back 5 years ago, you would Google it and not much came up. And now, I mean, I literally just updated a resource page in one of the Facebook groups that I moderate. And, I can't even tell you how many providers are on there. I mean, there's at least 20, and I know there's so many more out there. Those are just the people that I personally have some kind of relationship with. And so I'm aware of what they're doing. So I've put them on there, but there have got to be obesity doc meds and diabetes doc, you know what I mean? Like there have got to be other people out there that are doing this. So yeah,
definitely. Let's see. Yeah. The only other thing I might've mentioned is if you want to hear my whys, like what are what are
your whys? Let's hear them.
From my notes, that's the only thing that I don't think we covered. So first of all, my own health and well-being, I learned over time, like I do need to care for myself before I can care for other people. And lately I've also been learning boundaries with taking care of a community member. Like I need to help my family too, and myself. I need to do this within balance. And I met someone with diabetes, and this person's in their 70s and they have all these health conditions. And I just looked at their health, and many of their health conditions are likely related or caused from their diabetes. And I just kind of had this moment, like, I don't want that to be me in how many decades. Like I would much rather change now and have better motivation. And now that I'm mid-journey and have these tools and behavior changes, I can do it instead of just, that would be nice, but there's no help, no hope in the beginning, but it's coming. And so that's kind of a motivator. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I'd much rather have a healthy body as long as I live or as much as possible. And I know that I've damaged it, unfortunately, with this many years of the sugar, but I can change now. I can affect change now in myself and be a better example, like for my children and other people around me. Like they probably have the same brain I do. I see what they eat, so if they ever get to a point where they want to maybe move past it, if they do fall into that addict category or whatever, if they want some inspiration, I'm hoping to be one of the people that can say, oh, look, they did it, she did it, and it's possible, in this world where it doesn't feel like there's that many of us. There are, but it's still small in number, And then I also want more time and energy, like to care for myself, to take care of my family, help in my community, and then pursue a new career. I'm really excited about a new career coming down the line, but I know I can't pursue that unless my health is more stable, because the addiction just consumed a lot of my energy and time and mental, capacity. And so some people might not see it quite that black and white, but I do. And so in my brain, it's like, I'm just going to swap. Instead of this, I'm going to do that, And so, and then the only other thing I'd say is a few months ago, I was looking at my 2-year-old sleeping in her crib, and I just was like, I love this child. Like I love all my children. They're all my babies and I love them all very much. But I was looking at her sleeping and just thinking like, I would do anything for her. I would do anything. And the thought kind of passed through my mind, like including give up your sugar, chocolate. I'm like, yeah. And I'm at a point now, again, like in my recovery, middle of it or at the end piece, sort of, I don't know, where I can stay committed and keep going because it matters. And even though I couldn't do it before, I'm doing it now. And it's really a miracle. I'm really thankful like for what I've learned and the resources and the program and the path that didn't cost anything besides buying different foods. Like it wasn't, Kathleen's program is just an online, program and book. And I actually haven't even finished the book, but I have read the chapters of the steps I'm in. I actually got to go to Recovery Ranch and meet her and some of the other people in recovery. Yeah, a couple of years ago in New Mexico. And it was cool. What struck me the most is how calm everybody was. Like we just sat around and if no one talked for a minute, it was fine. Everyone was like this calm presence. I'm like, this is cool. Not that I'm not a calm person, but that's what I remember the most. And so, yeah, that's where I'm coming from and keeps me going. And who knows what the future holds. Hopefully I won't have too many slips or relapses or whatever, but I've had enough of them, I think, where it's like, I'm going to try my best to just continue to pivot towards a better way. And I'm so thankful that the program I'm doing and the behavioral changes, not just the food, but the behavioral changes that come with it, like build together. And it's helping me accomplish this goal that I've had, but now it's finally like getting better. So yeah, thanks for listening to that piece.
Yeah, thanks for sharing it. Well, once again, I just appreciate you so very much. And I know I've taken up quite a bit of your time, but I think that so many people are going to get so much from this. So thank you again, Charity.
Well, thanks for what you're doing as well. Thanks for letting me share.
If you like what you heard today, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.